could lead them into another ambush. Since they took the flag, they have an advantage in points, and therefore there is no point in taking any more risks. But the guys did not listen to the shooter's words, but rushed to catch up with Chu Xingchen. By this time, the fox had recovered and swore that she would take revenge on the vile Chu Xingchen. Just in time, the guy was running in her direction with a heavy burden on his shoulders. Chu Xingchen smiled happily at the fox and shouted that she was just in time. The fox was confused and missed the moment when the guy grabbed her by the scruff of the neck. The next moment, Chu Xingchen used the fox as a shield to cover himself and his burden from the back. The princess shouted so that Xiaoxi would not be killed by accident. She asked that they aim specifically at Chu Xingchen. The fox hung behind the guy's back and called him all the offensive words that she could remember in such an uncomfortable position. Chu Xingchen growled that they needed to break through to the west. There is a river there, and they can take the flag there. At this time, the attackers killed the fox, which was a human shield for the guy, and Hu Songlai. Chu Xingchen realized that the fox was killed because the flow of curses on his head stopped abruptly. Shuzo Wu and the princess were also greatly surprised by the death of the fox. It turned out that the fox was killed by a shooter, which had already caused a lot of problems for Chu Xingchen and his team. The guy did not expect that the guys from the other team were capable of killing their own man. Already taking her last breath, the fox showed Chu Xingchen her middle finger. The guy thought how much she hated him. The princess took the archer's girl by the breasts and said why she killed the fox, because Her Majesty could try to go and save her. The shooter replied that that was why she had to kill the fox, so that the princess would not risk herself in vain. The shooter added that most of their losses occurred while they were pursuing Chu Xingchen. The girl with glasses gave several more arguments in favor of the fact that the fox should have been killed. The princess objected that the fox was one of them, and it was necessary to do everything to save her man, and not cynically count points. Chu Xingchen was glad that quarrels had started in the opposing team. This played into the hands of their team. The guys asked Chu Xingchen if it was time for them to retreat. But the guy objected that it was more interesting to watch the show. And indeed, passions in the other team became even more intense. Shizo Wu himself shouted that it was worth stopping this mess and not fooling around anymore. But the girls had already bitten the bit and carried it off. So it was no longer possible to stop them. Shizo Wu got tired of all this and went to Chu Xingchen. At this time, the mentor who was watching the training became sad. A serious feud broke out in one of the teams. The girls were so upset that they were ready to kill each other. At this time, the other team, along with Shizuo Wu, were watching the quarrel and spitting seeds. The mentor decided that personal motives won out over Team 1's. It was time to stop this disgrace. As a master, Lu was not bitter to admit it, but the training stopped, and the guys learned nothing. The guys didn't understand what was happening with the formation. Why did she suddenly start to crawl apart before our eyes? Soon, they found themselves in ordinary reality. They didn't understand why the illusion ended. We thought that the formation might have broken, and then the guys saw the master who had fallen on the floor and ran up to him. Master Lu was carried from the training hall to his home and placed on a comfortable bed. The girl with blue hair reported that the mentor lost consciousness due to overexertion. She added that Master Lu could become ill for a long time and would need time to regain his strength. The guys were saddened by the condition of their mentor, but they didn't know how to help him. Moreover, there is only 1 month left before the competition between schools. There were already not enough teachers at the school, and the only one who could train them fell ill. Chu Xingchen looked at the fox thoughtfully. The suspicious girl asked why he was staring at her. Chu Xingchen thought that the gray fox could take care of their preparations for the competition. The guy turned to the fox with a request to train their team for the competition. But the stubborn old man didn't even want to hear about helping people. Chu Xingchen continued to convince the fox. He told him that the winners of the competition would gain access to the Sword Tomb, and it is closely adjacent to the Valley of Repentance, where the foxes are located. The gray fox could get with the guys as a coach to the Grave of the Sword and try to save his people from the Valley of Remorse. Chu Xingchen said that not all people are bad, and he said that in their school no one hurts the fox. Xiaoxi confirmed this. The guy continued to convince the old fox. He said that individually they are worth little, but together they can move mountains. True, the old fox did not appreciate Chu Xingchen's eloquence and kicked him out the door. At school at that time, someone was whittling thin sticks. It turned out to be Shooter Li Mu. One girl came up to talk to her. The girl said that the shooter was too rough with the princess. Limu responded by saying that she cannot stand complacent aristocracy. She said that even though they made a lot of money for the school, they were not allowed to treat the simulation as a game. Mentor Lu gave his all to make them a team, and they play games. The girl objected to the shooter that rich children are strong and can win competitions. Then their school will have a lot of money. And there will even be money to cure Limu's sister. The next day, the students gathered in the classroom for classes, but there was no one to teach them. The teacher was still ill. Chu Hingchen muttered that if there was no one to teach them, then he would have to take on this matter himself. Then, the system appeared and said that it was too early for the guy to take on the difficult work of a teacher. It is better for him to engage in cultivation in order to gain more strength and experience. Then, Limu approached the fox and apologized for killing it during training. Lisa said everything was fine. She doesn't hold a grudge. Limu said that she would do it again if she had to. The princess in the back row was simply indignant with anger. When the shooter girl finally left, the princess made a face at her. Soon, the still ill teacher appeared in the class. He waited until the students, who had perked up after his appearance, calmed down again. Master Lu announced that there was very little time left before the competition, and he found a new teacher for the children. Everyone froze in surprise and watched with bated breath as a stranger entered the classroom with a firm, springy step. The mentor introduced the new teacher as Mr. Wu Fu, the 3-star martial arts emperor. Although all the guys saw this man for the first time, for some, his identity was known. Chu Xingchen and the fox easily recognized the new teacher as the gray fox, who had just recently kicked them out the door. The guys didn't have to relax. Training began on the same day. The guys had been running for quite a long time, and therefore were puffing like locomotives at full speed. The new coach reported that he had seen their team battle simulation, and Wu Fu immediately began to reprimand the offenders. The trainer reported that someone immediately after the start of the simulation decided to turn dead and not take an active part in the activities. Wu Fu added that another member left his team at a difficult time. The coach noticed that some even deliberately kill their teammates. Wu Fu added that if their comrade had not been used as a shield, they would have lost. Even Chu Xingchen was surprised by this analysis. The coach said that everything was terrible and gave the guys the task of running 10 times around the island without using spiritual energy. The island was large, and the guys were afraid of such training. But there was nothing to do. Everyone had to run. True, not everyone understood how running would help them. Some people started to run out of steam already on the first lap. Some even tried to replenish their strength with spiritual energy. The princess asked Chu Xingchen if Wu Fu could train at all. Jogging didn't seem like a workout to the princess. Then, a coach appeared near the guys and told them to stop chatting while running, and that he heard everything. The coach said that in order to teach them not to gossip about the teacher, everyone should run an additional 5 times around the island. The princess screamed that it was her fault and the punishment should be only for her. But the teacher noticed that everyone's mistakes should be shared among the whole team. Wu Fu added that in a real battle, because of the mistake of one, his comrades suffer. Here too, because of the mistake of one, everyone must be punished. The coach was uncompromising and said that everyone should run extra laps. The girl with blue hair complained that she could no longer run. Shizo Wu took her on his back. The noble guy said that they all need to get there, but no one forbade carrying a comrade on your back. Shizo Wu whispered in the beauty's ear that he could not protect her during the simulation, but he would try to protect her now. Hu Songlai envied the girl with blue hair. He also could barely stand on his feet and wanted to be carried in his arms. Hu even cried. He spends the whole night doing secretarial work for Chu Xingchen, and the whole day he gets bullied during training. The guy saw the deplorable state of his secretary and began to support him. The mentor saw how the tired children, but all together, ran to the square in front of the school. Master Lu thought that this new trainer seemed to know his stuff. Wu Fu showed up at the school last night and told the teacher that he wanted to teach at their school. The coach stated that he used to know their former director well. This greatly surprised the mentor. Wu Fu added that he knows that their director disappeared 10 years ago, and nothing has been heard from her since then. Master Lu was happy to meet someone who used to know their director. Wu Fu looked at his mentor's training plan and rejected it. He said that in the remaining month before the competition, cultivation cannot be greatly increased. The new coach said it was better to concentrate on improving team cohesion and training their willpower. Wu Fu said that before, the training was too easy for the guys. Now he decided to add loads to them. The new coach said that only blood and sweat can strengthen the will of the guys. And in order to teach the students unity, he was going to become their common enemy. Wu Fu did not forget to mention Chu Xingchen's cunning. He added that all these moments together will make the guys a strong team capable of confronting a powerful opponent. Soon, in a distant city, a letter was approaching its addressee. When the letter dropped lower, it was deftly picked up and eagerly began to be opened. It turned out to be a letter from a spy and part-time Chu Xingchen's secretary, Hu Songlai. In the letter, Hu reported that he was never able to test Chu Xingchen's abilities. The guy blamed everything on his position as a secretary, because of which he had no free time at all. The envoys decided to take matters into their own hands. They had gathered to test Chu Xingchen during the academy tournament. Everything had to be prepared for this. It was to the benefit of the envoys that this year the competition between the academies would be held in the Western Isles, in the city of Shiyu. Wujin School's vegetable garden continued to be cultivated, despite a group of students preparing for the competition. In the garden, we got used to hearing the screams of the guys every day who were preparing for competitions. But for some reason, it was quiet that day. But then the farmers remembered that on that very day the team was leaving for the competition. They hurried to the pier to see the boys off. There were a lot of people near the airship. His mother even arrived at the school to give her final instructions to her son before the trip. The boy's mother turned to the girl with blue hair and said that she hoped that the girl would take care of her unlucky son. Then, the mother pulled her son's hair and said that she and her father would watch the competition. So she hopes that Shuzhua Wu will not disgrace their family. Her sick sister came to see off the shooter, Li Mu. She sincerely believed in her sister's success. It was time for the flying ship to depart, and Chu Xingchen called the entire crew on board. The students shouted that they hoped their team would at least pass the team battles and advance to the next stage of the competition. At this time, the mentor performed certain actions and opened a teleportation array. A huge hole began to open right in the sky. The flying ship, which was supposed to take the team to the competition, set off into it. The guys traveled this way for the first time, and they found it very interesting. They tried not to miss anything during the trip. Noticed all the details. True, the journey itself was very short. Some were even disappointed. As soon as the stern of the flying ship with the guys disappeared into the teleportation hole, how another hole opened high in the skies above Shiyu City. True, at this time the sky above the city was very lively. Competitors came from all over the country. From above, the city itself and the area around it looked very beautiful. Even for this landscape alone, it was worth flying here. The boys from Wujin School watched with interest the arrival of their rivals. Soon, the boys saw the Qingshan school team arrive. This school was one of the 3 strongest in the country. The students of this school were so skilled with their swords that they could use them as a means of transportation. One girl even envied these guys. She said it was very romantic to fly on your own sword, but the guy standing next to her objected to the girl. He said that traveling on a flying ship is much more comfortable and safer. Soon, a whole flying pavilion flew near the Wujin school ship. The pavilion was truly enormous. It was the flying stronghold of the moon gods. The guys tried to estimate how much spiritual energy was needed to make such a colossus fly. The city of Shiyu itself was located on the border of the Sea of Mirrors and the Desert of Madness. The favorable geographical position made this city a large trading center. The city was a key point that connected 2 distant parts of the country. In the city, Chu Xingchen was immediately approached to place a bet on the victory of one or another school. The guy resolutely refused this. A woman standing nearby said that the participants in the competition could be seen from afar. Chu Xingchen and the fox turned around and looked at the tall young lady who addressed them. The girl said that she represented Shiyu Academy, and that she was responsible for placing the participants in the tournament. The guys became very interested in this flexible and slender beauty. True, for some reason the girls didn't like it, unless the fox appreciated her captivating beauty. The dormitory for the participants looked more than decent, especially after the Wujin schoolrooms. The girl showed the guys the rooms and purred, so that in case of any problems, those who arrived would contact her directly. Then the beauty almost sang to the guys that they were very glad to see them here. Almost immediately, the system appeared and informed the guy that he had a new task. Chu Xingchen thought that the system was probably a bit of a pervert in his previous life. The beauty began to ask Xiaoxi if she was the fox for whom the great prince himself vouched. Lisa was very surprised that people on the other side of the country knew about her. The girl told the amazed fox that she must know her opponents in the tournament. The girl immediately recognized Chu Xingchen. although it was not difficult to identify him as a plant lover. The girl smiled sweetly at the guy, which the princess immediately did not like. The beauty whispered in Chu Xingchen's ear to be careful because he was being watched. The fox came to the princess on a small errand. True, she was still impressed by the beautiful girl. The princess began to revive the fox. She said that you shouldn't look at southern beauties. They are wrapped in rags, but their butts are visible, which is not good. This information was also heard by Chu Xingchen, who arrived. He asked the princess if she knew the people here well enough. Her Majesty said that she had to deal with them. She spent some time here in the Western Isles, but then a gong sounded, calling everyone to dinner, and the hungry guy's eyes lit up. All conversations had to stop. Meanwhile, interesting things were happening at the Shiyu City Academy. Two girls grabbed their teeth tightly into one small strawberry. A crowd gathered around them, cheering and cheering them on. Finally, the girls each took a bite of the strawberry on their side, leaving a small, thin slice. The presenter announced that this was the thinnest slice, and these girls won the competition. The other girls thought they could have done it even more subtly and started fighting. But at this time, a recent beauty appeared and called the girls a bunch of stupid bitches. She said that she works as hard as she can, meeting other schools, and here they are having fun with each other. But soon the girl calmed down a little and asked where Feng Yin had gone. She was told that she had gone to eat. Evening slowly fell on the city. There were even more people on the streets. Some were having dinner in a street cafe, while others were rushing to an important meeting. The city looked like a big anthill. The princess was enthusiastically telling something to Chu Xingchen. At this time, prying eyes were vigilantly watching the guy. From the balcony, a specified woman waved her hand to the guys. Chu Xingchen and the princess smiled happily back at her. The woman muttered to herself, "When will she play with them?" The tables for the competition participants were laden with delicious dishes. At Wuzhan School, they rarely served meat for lunch. That's why the guys decided to have a blast here. They simply could not be taken away from the table. The students were glad that they had come to such a wonderful place as the city of Shiyu. It is much easier to enjoy life with a full stomach than with an empty one. Chu Xingchen devoured the meat in large pieces. Fat ran down his arms, but the guy didn't pay attention to it. The guys from the Misty Flower Pavilion watched Chu. Their teacher told them to keep an eye on this guy. The guys from Misty Flower were surprised that Chu Xingchen and his friends ate so much food, as if they had not eaten for half a year before. One of the guys glanced at the piece of paper that stated that Chu Xingchen was a mystery guy and should not be discounted despite his low level as a 5-star martial artist. The guys also discussed that Chu Xingchen's group was trained by the martial arts emperor Wu Fu. There weren't many martial arts emperors in China, and the guys from Misty Flower knew them. But they had not heard anything about Wu Fu. They decided to collect information about him. At this time, Wu Fu remembered this city where he had been before. To the west of Shiyu City, there was one place that the martial arts emperor had not visited for a very long time. Suddenly, the old man felt several curious glances that were turned towards him. Wu Fu realized that 2 more cultivators were interested in his special one. Such attention irritated him. He thought that 500 years ago, there were many more martial arts emperors, and they did not attract as much attention back then. Wu Fu's thoughts were interrupted by the mentor, who said that the draw had already taken place. It was clear that Master Lu was excited about the results of the draw. 74 teams determined their opponents by lot and were divided into examination rooms. 6 teams per room. The mentor muttered that they got a room with 7 teams. Already at the very beginning of the tournament, unforeseen difficulties appeared. The guys had to be prepared for further strong challenges. Hongyun School, which ended up sharing a room with Chu Xingchen's school, was very unhappy. Their representative noted that there were only 5 Class A schools in the entire country, and 3 of them happened to be in the same room as them. The representative shouted that this was a gross injustice. The man with the goatee told him to calm down. He said that this is a tournament where the weak are eliminated and the strongest remain. He added that the competition should first get rid of rubbish like Wujin Academy. As always, before serious competitions, bookmakers became more active. Bets were accepted. Bets were made. The players also discussed the team's chances of winning. The young guy said that 3 A-class teams got into one room, as well as 1 team with no rating at all. Bettors chose one of the A-class teams that had a great chance of winning the tournament. Someone noted that it is stupid for a team without a rating to take part in competitions of such a high level. Wu Fu heard all these unpleasant conversations about his charges. There were so many people crowding into the waiting area for the tournament participants that there was nowhere for an apple to fall. The crowd discussed that this year the strongest participants came to the competition. Chu Qingchen noticed that indeed everyone at the competition was strong, except their school. The guys were offended to hear conversations behind their backs that they were the weakest and poorest here. The fact that the representatives of the Wujin school were told in their backs that they were losers was the lightest insult that the guys had ever heard. Finally, the princess could not stand it anymore and screamed that she was annoyed by the fact that they were constantly pointing fingers at them and calling them names. The guy from the Misty Flower Pavilion answered the princess that, unfortunately, not everyone likes to look for treasures in a pile of garbage as much as Her Highness. The princess began to boil and told the guy to repeat his words again. Chu Hingchen tried to cool the princess's ardor. At this time, an ancient old woman addressed them. Grandmother's name was Kong Lao. She was the dean of Shiyu Academy. She was so old that she looked like grandfather. Kong Lao told the boys that they were young and had a lot of energy. But you should not direct her to respond to insults. Chu Xingchen wondered why a person with a beard was called a grandmother. The princess replied that she was indeed a woman. The guy was indignant that his grandmother had a beard. But the princess noticed that it was normal for women to have a beard. Xu Zuowu also confirmed that it is normal for women to have beards. And the fox added that Chu Xingchen seemed to have come from another planet, which surprised him. The guy was simply shocked by such statements. He always believed that a beard is a distinctive feature of men, not women. The old lady began to announce the rules of the competition. She said that it is forbidden to take pills, food, etc. with you. She also informed the participants that each team was given 30 points. For killing an enemy, 1 point is given, and 1 point is subtracted if a team member is killed. Kong Lao also informed the girls that the duration of the competition was 7 days. And for killing an enemy, they give you supplies directly from the air. Squinting, the old woman reminded that despite all the measures taken, participants can die during the competition, and everyone should remember this. Kong Lao also reported on this year's innovations. An eye will be placed in each room. The competition will be broadcast live. In addition, it appeared that issues would be decided on a case-by-case basis by external judges. Everyone was surprised by these innovations. But the envoy grinned and whispered that all this was being done to make it more convenient for him to observe the participants. The long-awaited day has finally arrived. The sun was shining brightly in the sky, and everyone was looking forward to the start of the competition. There was no shortage of inviting inscriptions. It was clear that there would be no empty seats left. Everyone wanted to watch competitions of such a high level, in which the strongest teams in the country took part. Soon, the well-choreographed voice of the presenter echoed through the crowded arena, and people's conversations began to fade away. To begin with, the guy introduced himself. It turned out that his name was Yu Bin. He said this year's competition can be viewed through arrays or viewing stones, and those who came to the central Shiyu arena can watch the competition on a huge scoreboard. The audience was very happy to be able to watch the students struggle live. Xu Zuowu's mother called his father to the screen so as not to miss if their son was suddenly shown. The judges this year were also top-notch. Therefore, one could hope for fair competitions and quality judging. The mentor knew that 74 people were participating in the competition and understood that it would not be easy for his guys to even make it to the finals. Therefore, Master Lu mentally wished them good luck and the opportunity to show what they were capable of. 500 years ago, a mysterious curse broke out in the far north. The curse quickly affected the entire plain of the far north and turned many creatures into wandering souls. Since that time, the name of this territory has changed. It began to be called the Plain of Wandering Souls. Now the children had to experience the difficulties of this area. Already at the very beginning of the competition, a snowstorm began, which caused additional difficulties for some participants. The guys understood that their main task was not to run into soul eaters. And the second problem was not to freeze from the cold. True, one guy thought that the threat was not very big. He said that the most that threatens them is a few low-level ghosts. The guy also added that he knows the starting positions of other teams. It turned out that his distant relative was among the organizers of the competition. And so it was easy for the guy to get valuable information. The guys had a plan to first destroy the Wujin team and then hide and watch the tiger fight. Therefore, the guys did not want to waste time. They moved forward to meet Team Wujian, despite the snowstorm. Even in such a harsh area, there were animals that were cute and defenseless at first glance. True, it didn't take long for the rabbit to jump in the snow and tear apart the tasty roots. The girls started arguing about whether they would eat rabbit for dinner. But Xiao Tuzi, who caught the rabbit, did not want it to be eaten. Another girl from the same team stated that she wanted to go and play with Wujin. Xiao Tuzi really liked the rabbit. She rocked him like a child. But the other girl didn't like this fuss. She told Xiao to throw the rabbit away immediately. But the girl didn't want to do this, and almost immediately I regretted it. Something strange began to happen to Xiao Tuzi, and the rabbit disappeared into her hands. Soon, the beautiful girl began to look not like a person, but like a rag doll. One of the girls shouted that this was a spell to transform into a puppet from the Misty Flower Pavilion. The puppet did not stand still. It began waving its arms, threatening to hit one of the girls. Someone shouted in a timely manner that now Xiao Tuzi was no longer one of them, and she needed to be dealt with. Sister Xiao, who was on the same team with her, began to cry. She felt sorry for her sister. And in such a difficult test, I wanted to have a kindred spirit next to me. But the other team members did not stand on ceremony with the unfortunate Xiao Tuzi. The doll was immediately hit in the teeth, and one of the girls said that it was very shameful to let yourself be caught in such a stupid trap. She threatened to deal with the girl in the real world. The northern village greeted the travelers lifelessly. There was no one in the village. There were only gaping empty openings for windows and doors. The guys had come a long way in bad weather, and were disappointed that there was no one in the village. The village was very gloomy and creepy. And one of the guys inappropriately remembered that it was not far from this village that the curse broke out. The guys assumed that all the villagers had been turned into wandering souls, although they did not understand where these souls had gone. The guy with green hair suggested that the wandering souls in this village were killed by previous competitors. But it soon turned out that the guys in the village were not alone. They saw movement among the buildings and began to run after the enemy. The guy with green hair shouted as he ran that there was no point in running away from them, since they would die anyway. Chu Xingchen clearly saw the crowd of approaching opponents. The guy informed all members of his team that enemies had appeared on the horizon. The princess said that they were in complete order and everything was ready to meet the enemy. The other guys said that they had taken their positions and were only waiting for the command. The third group stated that the camouflage and arrows were ready. Chu Xingchen chose the right moment and ordered his guys to attack the enemy. Loopholes with already loaded weapons opened from different sides, and arrows and stones flew at the team that had just arrived in the village from all sides. The guys couldn't even immediately understand what was happening around them. They did not see the enemy, and did not understand where the attack was coming from. Then the guy with green hair realized that they were ambushed. The guy saw flames bursting out of the loophole closest to him. He came closer to see who was hiding inside, and extended his hand. The weak flame quickly turned into a fiery sword and severely burned the guy. The heartbreaking cry of a guy with green hair echoed throughout the village and died down among the snow-covered snowdrifts around. The guys from Wujin School were well prepared and well disguised. So the first battle went without losses for them. An hour earlier, completely different events were taking place in the village. The Wujian school team then screamed in horror, and there really was something to be horrified about. The guys, almost immediately upon arriving at the location, met wandering souls. The guys didn't know where to run. Ghosts surrounded them on all sides. It seemed that this would be the end of their participation in the competition, but they still didn't want to give up without a fight. They were going to at least sell their lives dearly. The girl shooter took aim at the enemy closest to her and was ready to release the bowstring. Suddenly, the ghost screamed with such a disgusting scream that the guys had to cover their ears, because listening to such a cacophony was unbearable. Chu Xingchen yelled that this might be a sound attack. True, the system corrected the guy. She said that this was no attack, but the usual curses of wandering souls. Chu Xingchen asked the system, since it is so versed in the curses of ghosts, to translate to him word for word what they mean. Soon, the guy realized that one of the ghosts was yelling not to hurt his child. Another of the ghosts shouted that people were too scary, and his eye fell out of horror. The third wondered why people came to them again. Chu Xingchen realized that the ghost did not threaten the guys and did not even intend to attack them. The guy asked the system to tell the ghost that people are not going to kill them. The system said that it would make it so that Chu Xingchen could talk to them himself. The guy waved to his friends so that they would not attack first. And then he told the ghosts that they were not their enemies. The ghosts talked to each other in surprise. For the first time, they met a person who understood their language, and even more so, could speak it. Chu Xingchen also apologized for screaming when he saw the ghosts. He explained that he was frightened by their appearance. The guy also told the wandering souls that he would do everything to help them, but Chu Xingchen added that other teams would still kill them, so they should be careful. The guy suggested that the wandering souls unite and deal with other teams. When the ghosts expressed their disbelief at Chu Xingchen's words, the guy said that Shizuo Wu could vouch for him. Shizuo Wu's noble posture and regular facial features inspired confidence in everyone. The wandering souls also believed in the sincerity of the guys. They consulted among themselves and accepted Chu Xingchen's offer of cooperation. Chu Xingchen was delighted, but his team still could not understand what his plan was and why he again decided to enter into an alliance with the next monsters. The ghosts were glad that this year they would have help and would not have to drill holes in the ground. Chu Xingchen was surprised and asked the wandering souls why they were making these holes in the ground. The ghosts explained to the children that under the village there is a system of tunnels where they hide when people arrive. One of the wandering souls said that every year there are fewer and fewer of them, and they try to avoid battles with people. But Chu Xingchen had his own plans to meet people from other teams. The guys used all the capabilities of the surrounding buildings to create a good trap. Moreover, they already had experience in construction and digging from the Black Swamp. The guys got to work together. They didn't really have much time, and they needed to expand and modify the tunnels that were dug by dead souls. The guys worked quickly and smoothly like clockwork. Every second of delay could bring their team a loss. Everyone worked hard, moving huge boulders and removing tons of earth from the tunnels. A preliminary map of underground structures was drawn up, and all work was carried out strictly according to plan. Even the most powerful enemy in this village was in for surprises. There were traps and hidden weapons everywhere. Soon everyone was ready to repel the attack, and the village itself turned into a fortress. True, this was not immediately clear. The enemy realized that something had gone wrong when it was too late to retreat, and from every hole and every window a weapon was pointed at them. Therefore, the enemies could only whine about how vilely they were treated. The guys tried to find shelter to save at least part of the team. The main thing for them was to cover the doctor, because without him they would not have lasted long. But the girl doctor, trying to hide, just fell into the clutches of monsters. Teammates rushed to save their doctor and did not particularly make out the roads. When the enemies began to realize that something was wrong, there was no longer any way to retreat. They were firmly and securely stuck in the trap. While the enemies were feverishly trying to find a way out of the stalemate, they were hit even harder. They were surrounded by teams from Wujin's school. True, the guys were disguised, and their eyes glowed. This brought even more terror to the enemy. Chu Xingchen politely thanked the wandering souls for helping them trap the other team. Meanwhile, the enemy was trying to gather his strength to break through the encirclement into which they had so thoughtlessly ended up. While the enemy was solving pressing problems, the princess quietly appeared from behind. Her Majesty took out her formidable weapon and began to destroy opponents left and right. The princess remembered Chu Xingchen's advice when he said that the strongest cultivators should take the initiative during battle. Also, before the fight, the guys agreed that the enemy doctor was their first priority. Without a doctor, they will not be able to get treatment. They will lose morale and become easy prey. The princess was just carrying out one of these initiative raids when the enemy decided to kill her. The opponents were constantly showered with a hail of arrows, which greatly thinned their ranks. In the end, the enemies decided to remove the Wujin school archer from the tower. They needed to try to regain the advantage they had lost in the village. Soon, a literal threat loomed over the girl with glasses, who accurately planted arrows into the unprotected backs and chests of her opponents. But the archer was covered by a fox, and the one who attempted to kill the archer soon turned into a victim himself. In the close embrace of the fox, the enemy could not resist for long. And soon darkness covered his eyes, and the archer continued to fire her arrows, hitting more and more opponents. Hu Songlai was waiting in ambush for the right moment. Soon he also had the opportunity to pluck the enemy's feathers. The scout reported to Songlai that it was time to start the fireworks, since the enemy had already waited too long. The guy didn't have to be asked twice. He happily pressed the button. The opponents found themselves at the very epicenter of the explosion. They danced like crazy, not knowing which way to run. The guy with green hair muttered that now explosive charms had been used. His man ran up to Master Zhu and said that it was time to retreat because their losses were too heavy. The master replied that he forbade retreat and would kill anyone who dared to do so. The guys quickly moved around the village through a system of tunnels, and the enemy never knew where they would be attacked from next moment. True, the fox was too short, and it was not always convenient for her to climb stairs and tunnels. The leader of the opponents shouted that they were simply attacked by a bunch of rats, and his team was afraid of them. Master Zhu gave the order to attack the ground to inflict maximum damage on the enemy. He yelled that if rats liked to dig tunnels so much, then he was going to bury them in these tunnels. The blows were really powerful. To be more effective, they were brought down from a height. All hell broke loose in the tunnels. Now the representatives of the Wujin school did not know where to run or how to escape. Even the wandering souls became worried as they hid in these tunnels for a long time. The guys somehow caught their breath, but they had to leave because everything was shaking and the tunnels could collapse. But Chu Xingchen said that it was not worth leaving the tunnels. He ordered the doctors to attend to the wounded, and he himself took up Plan B. Before the battle, the system developed 17 battle scenarios for the guy. Now Chu Xingchen decided to use the second one. Vine branches were used to strengthen the walls of the tunnels. Now the command has come to concentrate spiritual energy on strengthening the great branches. The entire team went to work with the exception of the seriously wounded. The spiritual energy of a group of people is a great force. If the energy is concentrated by friends or loved ones, the power is even greater.
Soon, the branches strengthening the walls of the tunnels were restored, and the threat of the tunnels collapsed past.
True, due to the superior strength of the enemy, the entire structure could not withstand it for long. Therefore, Chu Xingchen yelled for the rune team to speed up. Hu Songlai was in a hurry, but large formations required a lot of preparation time. But in the end, the guy coped with the difficult task. Everything was ready. The magic was over. The enemy found themselves in a ring of fire, with explosions constantly occurring around them. Master Zhu did not understand what this new attack was. Moreover, he did not understand from which direction the attack was coming. Suddenly, the boys fell to the ground, still not understanding why. The enemy team's magician explained to the master that this is how the Imperial Band formation works. He added that now half of their techniques will not work. True, this wasn't the worst news. Tentacles of unknown origin appeared from underground and began to approach the fallen children. Soon the victims were entangled either in vines or tentacles along their arms and legs. Meanwhile, in the central arena, the noise was incredible. The first sensation of the competition occurred. The audience couldn't believe their eyes. But the incredible happened. People in front of the screens rubbed their eyes. It seemed to them that they were imagining everything that was happening. But then the host announced that the Wujin school team defeated the Hunyun Academy team. And indeed, the Hunyun representatives lay helplessly on the ground. And the Wujin team walked between them. There were even small fights in the stands. Many people bet money on the team, which is now defeated. People couldn't understand how an unrated academy could take over a B-class academy. Representatives of other schools were already thinking about how they could recruit an archer from Wujin. But then the judges received their first complaint. Everyone looked back in surprise towards the person who filed the complaint. The man shouted that Chu Xingchen was manipulating wandering souls to deceive the Hongyun team. Wu Fu stood up for the guys. He said that there is no rule that prohibits entering into alliances with wandering souls. The coach, in turn, asked the representative of the competing team how they knew where to look for the Wujin school team. He couldn't answer. He only said that it was not Wu Fu's business, but that it was their own matter. Meanwhile, Chu Xingchen and his friends were discussing something with the wandering souls. One ghost woman roared that through the battle her house was destroyed to the ground. The wandering soul cried that she now did not know where to live. Chu Xingchen asked why she didn't then turn to the skilled builders of the Wujin school. Among their guys, there were truly skilled builders who could build a house of any complexity. Moreover, it was almost impossible to destroy such a house later.
Wujin School unanimously raised their fingers and said that they invite everyone to order home renovation services from them.
It turned out that the guys were advertising their services all over the city. Some people muttered indignantly that such impudence had never happened at a competition before. The mentor was ashamed and covered his face with his hands. Wu Fu sat next to him with a stony face. But Chu Xingchen and his team continued to promote their services to an audience of thousands. And right after the fight, when the attention of all spectators was focused on them, even the envoy turned his attention to this episode. He motioned to his assistant. Then, the messenger whispered something in the assistant's ear, and he obediently nodded his head. At this time, Chu Xingchen and his team were already working at full capacity. They carried heavy boulders and cleared the area. The wandering souls were very grateful to Team Woojin. This was the first time in their lives that people helped them rebuild destroyed buildings. Among the rubble of the house, Chu Xingqian discovered a well-preserved package. The guy unfolded it and saw a cheerfully smiling woman in the photo. At this time, one of the wandering souls approached Chu Xingqian. She looked over the guy's shoulder, and also smiling, said that this was one of her old portraits. The events associated with this portrait took place in a northern village 500 years ago. The mother said that her daughter is so beautiful that there will be no end to those who want to woo her. The young beauty's name was Ma Ha. She was cheerful and loved to have a good time with friends. Soon, Ma Ha's father returned from hunting. They had a successful hunt, and their party received a lot of things. The father asked Ma Ha that she and her brother take these things to a distant northern city. Over the past 500 years, the northern village has not changed much. All the same small, huddled buildings and snow-covered streets. The children secured the load well on the sleigh and set off on a long journey. The brother asked his sister what the distant northern city of Beivang was like. The girl replied that soon he would see everything for himself and form his own opinion about the city. The brother was so impatient that he began to peer into the city as soon as it appeared on the horizon. Up close, the city looked even more majestic and beautiful. He was even more beautiful because the cold, lifeless desert stretched around him. The northernmost city of Beihai was one of the wonders of the world. It was built by countless craftsmen. The sister told her brother that she had heard that their young master could turn a person into a puppet. She added that the master had already reached the martial arts emperor level. The brother shouted that he also wanted to be a puppeteer. His sister just laughed at him. The brother got angry and shouted at his sister that she shouldn't think that he doesn't have strength. He said he would curse her, and she would never marry. At this time, the children saw in the distance, where the city should have been, a strange crimson glow. Brother and sister were surprised by the strange phenomenon, and even more frightened. The crimson glow gradually increased and soon covered half the sky. And in place of the city, a strange formation appeared. The children watched with bated breath. It seemed to them that a strange thing, which consisted of red threads, began to grow. Then they became very scared, and the children started screaming. Something began to approach them. It was an incomprehensible red thing that was difficult to describe in words. Soon, the red threads from which the thing was made appeared near the guys and turned into a crimson fog. Red threads of fog on all sides. My brother started coughing a lot. The sister saw that her brother was getting worse every minute. She decided not to waste time, turned the sleigh towards the house, and drove forward. True, the reindeer that were harnessed to the sleigh remained standing in place. The girl approached the reindeer to see why they refused to carry the sleigh. Her cheek itched, the girl wanted to scratch it, and the skin began to peel off her face. My sister was very scared. She had no idea what was happening to her. My brother was also getting worse and worse. The situation seemed desperate. The boy developed dark discharge from his nose and mouth. He looked at his sister with a frightened look. But the girl couldn't do anything either. She was scared to death herself. She started yelling that this was happening to the district and what they should do next. There were no answers to these questions. It was only clear that something terrible was happening to them. A crimson fog covered a vast area and spread through the streets of their village. At that time, the girl did not know that it was not just fog, but a curse. The curse of the wandering spirit was embedded in the human body. It spared neither the elderly nor children. Really terrible things happened to people. No one understood the reasons for what happened and how to deal with it. Gradually, people began to be less and less like other people. Eventually, they all became mindless evil spirits. They were angry at their fate, at themselves, at God. They did not understand why they were given such punishment. For many weeks and months, there were screams and groans in the village. But the terrible evil did not go away and continued to absorb the souls of people in order to torment them later. Before such an insidious supernatural enemy, ordinary people were powerless. They couldn't fight it with ordinary swords and arrows. True, glimmers of hope soon appeared that everything could change. The girl met a stranger who told her that she should not be afraid and sad. Otherwise, the curse would act even stronger. The child asked who this man was and why he knew so much. After that, something began to break out from the mysterious man's backpack. It turned out to be a scary and bulky doll in multicolored clothes. The mysterious stranger said it would all be over soon, and that their torment will be over. Meanwhile, the scary doll came to life, which greatly frightened the girl. The puppet's eyes lit up, and its terrible mouth curled into a grin. Then the doll began to suck in the crimson fog, which covered the village and brought with it misfortunes and curses. The red mist began to leave the girl's body and her health began to change. Also, the crimson mist left the bodies of other villagers. There was also much less of it in the air. The stranger explained that his doll was called the bearer of the curse. She can take the curse of others for herself. People were surprised to find that their health improved dramatically. They lost the constant pain that had tormented them for a long time. The stranger added that the doll would not take away the curse from those whom it had already completely consumed. The stranger was about to leave. People thanked him with all their hearts for saving them from terrible torment. Grateful villagers called their benefactor the puppeteer of the city of the far north. As he left, the man turned around and said that he was not a benefactor. It turned out that he was also cursed. Thanks to him, although people became wandering souls, they retained their sanity and humanity. After all these terrible events, people remained in their village and continued to live as usual. The ghost reported that time later cleared the plains of the curse and people repopulated them. And from a piece of the north, they made a secret world. The guys were very sad after they heard the sad story of wandering souls. One of the ghosts said that he had seen births and deaths for 5 centuries. He added that the curse had corroded his memory, and he had no reason to be sad. The guys became even more upset. Some even began to roar. The wandering souls tried to calm down Chu Xingqian's team, seeing that the guys were very concerned about their fate. One of the ghosts pointed to the little boy and said that this was the brother she had mentioned. The ghosts also told the boys not to tell anyone about their story. Chu Xingqian said that wandering souls should not worry. No one will know about their history. Otherwise, why would they listen to ghosts in the toilet? There was a protection in the eye that closed the toilets from prying eyes, so that the competition participants could sit in peace in the toilet. The girls were surprised by this story. They have always heard that the city of the far north is just a beautiful legend. The system reported that this city disappeared 500 years ago, and still no one can find him. Therefore, it is common to consider the city a beautiful fantasy. Chu Xingqian also remembered that one of the old men told him about such a doll. While the guy was working in the garden, the old man explained to him that the curse doll is one of the most complex dolls. The old man added that the materials for creating a doll are rare, and the techniques are complex. In addition, unusually high demands are placed on its creator. Chu Xingqian was busy with his vegetables and did not listen to the old man very carefully. The guy heard out of the corner of his ear that the doll was being made from a living person. In addition, the higher the level of the person, the more complex the doll, and the more curses it can withstand. When Chu Xingqian asked whether it was really necessary to sacrifice a person to create a doll, the old man began to beat the guy for not listening to the story carefully. The beaten guy stated that art that sacrifices a person is pure evil. The old man replied that this is not done under compulsion. The person voluntarily agrees to become a doll. As he was leaving, the teacher said that he hoped that the guy would never have to make such a doll. Chu Xingqian asked the old man if he had ever made such a doll, but the guy never received an answer. Chu Xingqian consulted the system whether his old man could be the mysterious stranger who saved the villagers. True, the stranger was young and handsome, but the old man was of mature age, and besides, he relieved himself wherever he could. Chu Xingqian asked the ghosts if they knew where their benefactor had gone. One of the ghosts said that he probably went on to save other people. The ghost added that the secret place was only a small part of the northern plain. In order for the guys to learn more about ancient events, they had to go to northern Jalan. At this time, the presenter announced that poisonous fog was being released into the 11th room. The area over which the poisonous fog was released was huge, and this action affected many teams. True, there was a space free of fog in the middle. The girls' team was very unhappy because they did not expect the additional condition to come into effect so soon. The fog also threatened other teams. It spread from the edges of the world, and the middle was quite safe. Apparently, in this way, they tried to bring the teams closer to each other. This event caused excitement among the teams. Chu Xingqian became very angry. They had settled well in the village, strengthened it, and now they had to leave. True, there were other participants who were not particularly worried about the presence of toxic fog. For example, Xuanqi Academy believed that the time had come. One of their girls asked if all the dark lines were connected. The envoy watched the approaching events with great interest. Chu Xingchen's team also included people who were going to act according to their only known plan. One such person was Hu Songlai. The guy waited in the wings for a very long time to deal with Chu Xingchen. When the boys left the village, the wandering souls loaded them with so much food that they could barely carry it. But this seemed not enough to the ghosts, and they still wanted to offer it to the guys. After all, these were the only people who treated wandering souls humanely. The ghosts simply overwhelmed the Wujin school team with provisions. But the guys couldn't fight them because they were offered a lot of food. The ghosts said that they were used to the guys, and they were very sorry that they had to leave so quickly. The guys, in turn, asked if the ghosts wanted to leave this place. After all, they are not aggressive and not dangerous to people. The wandering souls replied that they were not welcome anywhere, and no one would want to have anything to do with them. Chu Xingchen's team felt very sorry for such kind creatures who were better than many people. The ghosts told the guys not to worry about them. Now they have many tunnels, and their life will only get better. As the poisonous fog approached, Team Wujin left the village, but they still looked back for a long time. The wandering souls waved their hands goodbye and shouted kind words after them. The guys were so loaded with provisions that they could not move very quickly. In addition, not only the spectators were watching the Wujin team with their eyes, someone else was watching them. This was someone who was very secretive and hungry. In addition, he had several trump cards up his sleeve. To reach a safe place, Chu Xingchen's team had to cross the river and take refuge in the forest. There, they had much more options than fighting strong teams in open areas. Chu Xingchen understood that they released the poisonous fog specifically to remove the Wujin school from the competition. The guys were already quite tired, but they had not yet managed to reach the saving forest. Chu Xingchen began to look around the snowy area. The guy suspected that they might have gone astray. Even in the distance, there were no trees visible. Then a familiar voice whispered something strange in the guy's ear. At first, Chu Xingchen didn't understand where he knew this characteristic hissing voice from. Then the guy remembered the swamp demons and looked around in a daze. The demons said that they really missed their instructor. Soon, other demons appeared. They informed Chu Xingchen that they had managed to develop new varieties of potatoes. The swamp demons invited the guy with them to boast to him about their successes in agriculture. Chu Xingchen wondered where in this secret world a crowd of swamp demons from another secret world could appear. Meanwhile, the swamp demons showed the guy a large village and said that they built everything here themselves. Chu Xingchen finally realized that he was in an illusion. Moreover, the illusion was so masterfully made that he did not understand when he found himself in it. The guy started wandering around and trying to find members of his team. Chu Xingchen sincerely hoped that this illusion was not brought upon them by their competitors. Otherwise, the other team could kill them one by one while they were in captivity of the illusion. Suddenly, someone gently touched the guy's shoulder. But Chu Xingchen felt as if he had been electrocuted or scalded with boiling water, so he twitched. It turned out to be that nasty guy. He licked his lips with his tongue and told Chu Xingchen that he missed him very much. The girl with blue hair was also in the grip of an illusion. She wandered through the foggy forest and could not meet anyone. She, too, did not immediately understand where the secret world ended and where the illusion began. In addition, the girl with blue hair did not immediately notice that someone was near her. At first, she saw the blurry silhouette of a tall man and was afraid that it was someone from the other team. But then the beauty recognized her good friend, Shizuo Wu, an artifact of the past and future. In fact, the illusions were caused by the refraction of light from the snow and not by the machinations of the other teams. The victims of such illusions are either dominated by the most terrible memories or have visions of the future in which they would like to find themselves. The illusions were also accompanied by an unconscious loss of perception of the environment. These were competitions of the highest level. That is why the challenges here were the most serious. True, not all competition participants were equally susceptible to illusions. The girl from Shuangqi Academy was not only not subject to illusions, but she was also interested in Chu Xingchen. The girl muttered under her breath that for some reason many people consider this mediocre piece of shit to be the chosen one. She added that even if Chu Xingchen was truly the chosen one, his connection with God was severed through an illusion. Therefore, the girl believed that no one could help the guy, and she really wanted to know all the secrets of Chu Xingchen. True, the guy was not inclined to share his secrets. He was vomiting heavily. The girl from Shuangqi Academy also suffered quite a bit. Just at this time, the system contacted Chu Xingchen. True, he still continued to vomit. The system complained that she was locked in a dark room. She found herself cut off from the outside world and from Chu Xingchen. Then the system asked how the guy was feeling. He really didn't look important. Chu Xingchen began to hug the system. She was already glad that the guy missed her so much. But Chu Xingchen, as always, attacked the system with reproaches. He asked where she had been for so long. The guy said that he called for the system for so long that he became hoarse, but it never appeared. At this time, the competition spectators saw that Chu Xingchen had destroyed the illusion. They were delighted that the guy managed to cope with the illusion so quickly. True, some said that the guy cries too much. This does not suit a good warrior at all. The interlocutor replied that a real warrior can allow himself to cry. Chu Xingchen was confessing to the system at this time. He reported that he saw that nasty guy in an illusion. He touched him and was going to abuse him. The system told the guy that this was not an ordinary illusion, because then she would have stayed with the guy. The system stated that a powerful artifact was used that could eliminate even her. The system also added that this was apparently the work of fake systems, although they hid their scent so as not to be discovered. Meanwhile, Chu Xingchen was trying to gather his team, which was still in the grip of illusions. True, the guy was surprised that he managed to find only the pitiful remnants of the team. The rest of the guys were nowhere to be found. The system stated that people in captivity of illusions can move unconsciously. Therefore, Chu Xingchen took the fox and Hulu with him and set off on a journey to find the others. Chu Xingchen remembered that when he woke up, he saw large breasts. The guy wondered if he had really imagined it too. The girl who was hiding behind the rock could shed some light on whether Chu Xingchen really saw big breasts, or if it was just his imagination. And in front of the girl with blue hair, Shizuo Wu really stood. She asked her friend why his hair suddenly turned white. The beauty gazed intently at Shizuo Wu, but for some reason he seemed different to her. A girl with blue hair asked the guy why he was crying. Shizuo Wu answered something to the girl, but she did not understand his words. She touched the guy's cheek, but she felt like she was receiving an electric shock. The noble guy spoke again, but the blue-haired girl couldn't make out a single word. On the one hand, the girl understood that in front of her was her old acquaintance Shizuo Wu, but on the other hand, he seemed somehow not himself. Soon, the girl with blue hair began to suspect that something bad was happening. Shizuo Wu again muttered something incomprehensible. Therefore, the guy extended his hand to the beauty's face. Everything seemed somehow unusual, strange, as if covered with a whitish fog. Finally, the girl with blue hair realized that this was a real illusion. She was even surprised why she couldn't figure it out right away. When the beauty realized that she was in an illusion, she immediately woke up. She rushed towards the still dreaming Shizuo Wu. The girl began to bother the guy, trying to wake him up. She asked him if he had seen the other guys. The girl with blue hair thought why in the vision Shizuo Wu's hair was white, because red suits him better. The beauty wondered what this vision could mean. The girl wondered if this vision could foreshadow future events or was just an illusion. Suddenly, the beauty felt the first weak blow, a harbinger of an enemy attack. Without wasting a second, she immediately put up a good defense. The girl did not have time to see who was attacking them. But the defense worked very well and they were safe for a while. Nevertheless, the enemy was approaching from above. He admired the fact that the beauty destroyed the illusion so quickly. But the attacker added that this would not help her, because she was just a healer. Then the enemy shouts, "Die!" powerfully attacked the guys. But the girl with blue hair managed to escape from the attack at the last moment, along with the unconscious Shizuo Wu. The girl used all her skills to protect her friend and stay alive herself. The enemy shouted after them in rage. He believed that this couple was already in his hands. What followed was a tedious pursuit, and only the beauty's frantic reaction helped the guys avoid enemy attacks. But soon the enemy overtook the fugitives. He told the girl to leave her companion and play cat and mouse with him. The girl did not respond to his proposal, but she cupped her palms. The next moment, a protective screen appeared in front of the